So as mothers, while I understand that we are the superheroes to our children, and while I understand that we have to be the backbone, okay, it is important that we are not ignoring our mental health. On today's podcast, we are speaking directly, or I'm speaking directly to mothers. I wish I had a co-host. Hopefully soon we'll get some people in here with us, or at least on a Zoom call or something. But this podcast is for mothers. Now, if you're not a mother, I'm not saying that you should not listen, because maybe you'll get something handy from maybe your mother, your child's mother, or, it's just good information for you to have. But it is going to be specific to mothers, okay? And what it is I have noticed just with myself, with friends, with clients, just on social media, that mothers have been having a hard time lately. And I don't know if it's lately or if it's just because COVID hit and people are more forthright with, how they're feeling and so on and so forth. But have been trying to balance emotional feelings, mental issues, and being a good mother. So I want to talk about that today. And I just want to clarify something real quick. When I say this podcast is for mothers, I mean this particular episode of the podcast, not the entire podcast. I don't want anyone to get that misconstrued. But just back on topic of mothering and going through all the emotions, because let's just call a spade, okay? The expectations from mothers and the expectation from fathers are completely different. Now, I'm not saying that fathers don't have their own crosses to bear. Of course they do. I'm not saying that they're not roles given to fathers based on, societal norms and societal expectations, because of course there are. But when it comes to being a mother, we are more so required to be the full on, even when there's marriage, even when it's a committed relationship with the father. But mothers are expected to be the full on, hands on, there for everything person in the children's lives. And while fathers are often commended for being a father, let's talk about it. Earlier, I was talking to my best friend. We were on the phone, and I can't remember if we were speaking about something we saw on social media or whatever the case is. And, we were commending a father for it was for some, I don't remember exactly what happened, but we're commending a father for some act that they did in their child's life. But if that was a mother, and I had to really stop the conversation because both she and I was doing it, right? And I had to stop the conversation because if this was the shoe on the other foot, and a mother had done the same exact thing, it would have just been the expectation as opposed to being commended, right? As opposed to taking a hat off and giving a mother a round of applause. It's just the expectation. And cool, if that's just what being a mother is, that's just what being a mother is. But the issue comes into play when we sometimes take the humanity out of motherhood. And if we look at it from the aspect of how mothers come to be, right? So yes, when it's conception, it takes both parents. It takes both the father and the mother to conceive the child. But the mother is the person who carries the child for the 9 months or however long it took for the child to be brought into the world, right? The mother is the one that nurses the child, like breastfeeding. The mother is typically, because of breastfeeding, for other reasons, of course, but because of breastfeeding, the mother is typically the one that has to wake up with the child, the baby, when the baby is born at night, and feed the child so that, of course, so their baby can be nourished. So I definitely understand why so much responsibility is placed on the mother when it comes into the actual rearing and taking care of the child over the father. But that does not mean that it's right. And that does not mean that because as a mother, we have these societal expectations to ensure that we're rearing our children. And if we're not rearing them in this great, exceptional way, then we're just the worst person on the world, right? We're the worst people ever. It should not take away from our own mental health, emotional stability, and how we are allowed to feel about this. So earlier I was on TikTok and I saw this video of this girl, and the video was made in jest, right? And essentially she was saying, basically she has to ignore her depression and be a mother so she can take care of her kids. And that's really commendable, right? And a lot of people would say, well, that's just what you're supposed to do. You're a mother. The kids didn't ask to be here. And none of that is wrong. But let's think about the repercussions of this, right? So you're a mother, you have these kids, you're going through something. Let's say you're going through a job loss. Let's say you're going through a breakup. Let's say you're going through grief. Let's say you're just having a bad time. Okay? It's a lot of stuff going on and life is just rough right now. And because you have children, you are not prioritizing how you feel, your sadness, your anxiety, your depression. Because you have children, you're ensuring that they're taken care of, which again, you should. I am not saying that that is not what should happen. But because you're putting so much into your kids and so little into ensuring that you are on the right path, guess who will end up feeling it in the long run? Those children. A lot of times parents, and I'm speaking about both parents now, a lot of times parents feel like children don't know when stuff is going on in their household. My parents were married up until my father passed away when I was 17 years old, right? I'm not going to say their marriage is perfect, but they maintained their marriage in their way and it was good for them, and that is what matters. But I can tell you that around the age of maybe 5, 6, I knew when my parents were having a fuss or they were arguing, even when they tried to hide it from me. I knew when my dad was upset with my mom or my mom was upset with my dad, even when they tried to hide it from me. Because kids are not stupid. They can pick up on these things. Because as much as you try to be the pillar of motherhood and the pillar of strength and the pillar of womanhood, right? You're still a person. You're still a human. You still feel a way about feeling a way. And due to that, sometimes those feelings, because they're unaddressed, they now seep into your children. When I say seep into, I mean the way that you are acting and you are feeling, well, it will now go into them because you can't hide it forever. You can't wear the cape forever. Even Batman has to go back to being a regular citizen. I forgot Batman's name. The actual person who turns into Batman, I forgot his name. And so does Superman, right? The cape comes off at some point and now he's just a news reporter. So even superheroes are humans to some extent. For some portion, they don't always have the cape on. So as mothers, while I understand that we are the superheroes to our children, and while I understand that we have to be the backbone, okay, it is important that we are not ignoring our mental health. Now, I will say single motherhood and motherhood where you are either committed to the father or married to the father are two different things. Because in single motherhood, even when the father is an active father in the child's life, which is very common, I know there's a lot of stereotypes, especially about Black fathers, that they're not active, which is not the truth, right? But even when they're active, typically the child, unless you Black China, but that's a whole nother story, but typically the child is predominantly with the mom. So the brunt of the responsibility is on the mom, which takes away from that free time, that space to really address what is going on with you. If you have some, as a mother, if you have some issues that you are facing, right? I feel like definitely it becomes time, especially if you are not wanting to ask, especially if you're a hyper independent mom, that you put some of this responsibility onto the child's father. Because in a lot of cases, it's not that the men don't want to do it. Is that mothers, because of the conditioning from society, feel like, oh, I can do it myself. I carry this child. It's my baby. And you know what? If he's just not standing here at my doorstep knocking and wanting to know what's going on, then no, I'm not going to tell him anything. Well, listen, I mean, how has that been working for you? How has that been helping and benefiting your mental and emotional health? How has that been benefiting your child? Now, of course, if the father is not in the child's life because the father has issues, the father is abusive, the father is toxic, the father is narcissistic, by clinical diagnosis of narcissistic behavior disorder, okay, then yeah, that's a little bit different. Then, of course, in those situations, I always recommend turning to trusted family and friends. But when that's not the case, and you have someone in the child's life who loves the child and wants to take care of, turn to that dad. Turn to the Father, ladies, and let him help you out. Okay. And if he is helping you out, and if he is playing a father, not even helping you out, let him do his job. You see how I'm just conditioned to say helping you out? Like that's not his kid. Like the two of y'all didn't lay up together and produce this child. So yeah, let him do his job, ladies. And even in situations where you are married or you're committed to the Father and you all are in the same household, or maybe you're committed and you're not in the same household, but you're together pretty often. A lot of the time, the burden still does fall mostly on the mother of rearing the child, and not the burden, because I don't want to call children burden because they did not ask to be here, but the responsibility of rearing the child. A lot of the rearing falls onto the child. That's why in a lot of situations, children prefer the mother side of family over the father's. It's not that the father side of family is always just terrible people. It's because the mother has so much more influence that, the mother's family takes precedence in a lot of cases. Not always, of course, because that's not how it always goes, but in a lot of situations. Now, ladies, I am not telling you not to be a good mother. I'm not telling you not to put your kids first and give them everything that you know that they deserve to have, because I would be a hypocrite to tell you to do so, because my child is my priority. But you have to actually come above them, because when you are not successful in your life, in all aspects of your life, they are going to take the brunt of that, because they don't have any other way to get it. You're an adult. You lose your job, you can go drive for Uber. You could go do DoorDash. You know what I mean? Shoot, people can sell toes on the internet. You can sell your toe pictures on the internet. Children don't have that option. They are depending on you to ensure that they are living a stable life, to teach them how to live a stable life. So when they do become of age, they can create a life for themselves, right? So when you are not doing for yourself, when you are not providing stability to yourself, you are really just hurting them in the long run. It is important that you take time out to work on you. And that is whatever it looks like for you. So if that's exercising, if that's taking some walks, if that's reading a book, if that's meditation, if that is counseling or therapy or coaching, ensure that you are not staying in depressive states, in sad states, in anxiety, and just overall just a low feeling, if you don't have to. And you never really have to. And take an hour a day that's dedicated to only you. Right? If you are someone that likes activity, but maybe you have been putting that off, don't. Take that same hour, 2 if you need it, and go for a hike, go for a jog, cook something, start your YouTube channel. Do something that is dedicated to you. If you are going through some form of loss or grief, go and therapy. There is absolutely nothing wrong with therapy. Go and speak to someone. Get professional counseling, get professional help. Don't stop being a mother. You can't stop being a mother. That's not how it works. Once you bring them here, that they are now, that is another job that you have. But fathers have just as much responsibility. Ensure that they're doing their part. Take the cape off sometimes. Okay? Be Clark Kent every now and again. All right? I think Bruce is the name of Bruce something is the name of Batman. The person that is Batman. Be Bruce sometimes. Okay? That is fine. It's okay to take care of yourself. You're not a bad mother for it. And I don't know who needs to hear this. I don't know if anyone needs to hear this. I don't know if this video is going to get watched or not get watched. I don't know if this podcast is going to get listened to or not get listened to. But if you take nothing else from what I'm saying today, take care of yourself. Because when you don't, you suffer, your kids suffer, the people around you suffer, and then now you fall deeper into this depressive state. Well, ladies and gentlemen, whomever was listening, definitely want to thank you all for stopping by, for listening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you can comment on the podcast, do that as well. How you feel. What are your issues with motherhood? What are some things that you wish you can work on better for yourself? What are the joys and maybe some of the opportunities for growth of motherhood? And also, ladies, I'm actually going to be doing a a mother event or a mothering event for mothers only, so we can come together, we can vent, we can talk about the joys again and the opportunities for growth, and sometimes the pains, yeah, of motherhood. It's going to be speakers there, some that you are probably familiar with. It's going to be food, it's going to be drinks, it's going to be laughing, crying, the whole nine. The first location will be in Atlanta, and I'm thinking June, July for the first event. But of course, I'll let everyone know closer to that time. But because of all of this, and it's something I've actually been planning now since the beginning of the year, but since we're coming closer, since this is a topic, let's talk about it, right? So events, I'm going to be doing them nationwide. I'm just starting in Atlanta because that is my home base. But yeah, everyone, other than that, definitely hope you have a great week upcoming, and you're doing, again, everything that you need to get to this bag. And until next time, be safe and stay blessed.